everybody. Welcome to Meddkit's Provider Spotlight, where every week we are interviewing the most amazing private practices from all over the United States. Every week, it is such a treat. We get to meet someone new, get to know someone in a new specialty every single week. But most importantly, we're getting all different areas of learning. We're learning new things. We are getting people's different opinions on how they conduct their practices. And today I have a really awesome special guest for you. I have Dr. Eric Kusher. He is the owner of Compass Total Wellness, and he is here willing and ready to chat with us all about Compass Total Wellness. So thank you, Dr. Eric, for joining us.
My pleasure. I'll try to be awesome and special for you.
You are. We are so excited to dive in. I know that we have so much that we want to get to, and you have a great practice, a great story. But I'd love to even just start off with that and share, what inspired you to open up your own practice? What inspired you to get into your specialty and be here today?
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel. There's a lot of years to go over, so I'll try to condense it into a nutshell for you. Just to make a long story short, I started out my responsible adulthood as a firefighter paramedic for the city of Miami Beach. Not
Mm.
to date myself, but that was back in 1977. And I did that in between undergrad and graduate school. After that, I went to grad school, became a chiropractic physician, which is really what I wanted to do because I had experience as a patient with that and got really good results. And I started my own practice in 1983 and did pretty much standard chiropractic stuff for about 8 or 10 years, and then really gravitated into my sweet spot, which was functional medicine.
Mm.
So throughout that process, I got postgraduate certified in acupuncture, kinesiology, and functional medicine. And from that point forward, everything that I did with patients was centered around functional medicine, nutrition, exercise, weight loss, everything that I still currently do today in some way, shape, or form. And then about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I kind of tightened up the practice into metabolic medicine and weight loss, and that's what we've been doing pretty much ever since. We have a really kind of unique practice, which I'll get into. So total practice, 43 years. Um, it's been a lovely ride for me. I really still love what I do. That's why I still do it at my age. But currently we see patients that come in with a myriad of complaints. And we kind of pigeonhole them a little bit into the weight loss metabolic medicine,
Mhm.
but that title has so many tentacles into other things. So we wind up treating patients with chronic disease, insulin resistance, diabetes, cardiac stuff. So I get a good smattering of pretty much everything in my practice, which, from a personal perspective, helps them, but kind of keeps me fresh too.
I love that. And from everything that you've shared already about yourself, how you've gotten into your specialty, seems like you're a real community guy. You started out working and helping your community and wanting to keep that that population safe. And I think, that still comes out into what you're doing today. There's so much out in this world and misinformation, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But you're still taking care of people, but in a different way and helping people in a different way. So I love that about you and what you've been able to do with Compass Total Wellness. But I'd love to hear and dive into a little bit more about the particular areas that you treat. I'm sure there are a lot of common areas that you find people are struggling with, but I always think there's more than what meets the eye. I think there's always things that people end up doing or seeing or helping treating that you necessarily wouldn't expect you to. And so I'd love you to talk even about those things that might give some people some pause and say, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, most people either get referred into us or find us somehow when they're looking for weight loss or how to
Mhm.
optimize metabolism or things like that. So that's where they land when they come into practice.
Mhm.
But what we do with them from that point on is so data driven and comprehensive that we're bound to find other little things that they need care for, and they all kind of influence each other from the outside in.
Hmm.
So we'll have somebody walk in the door that needs to lose 50, 60, 100 pounds,
Hmm.
and they don't even realize what the root cause of that is. They've been told all their lives that reduce your calories, increase your movement and exercise, and you're going to be fine. It just doesn't work that way. And the science has borne that all out. So there are hormonal things, there are emotional things, there are so many different facets of what causes that weight loss, which is the end result of all the stuff that comes first. So rather than just giving them a diet plan and having them cut out calories and making them exercise in a gym, we really dig deep into the data and we look at all these other compartments that might affect the outcome. And the way that we do that, which is kind of the unique side of the practice, I'll divert just a little bit. Back in 2018, 19,
Hmm.
you and I are talking in 2026. We used to see patients all day long in 10 different brick and mortar offices that we had throughout New England. And over the period of about 12 months, we took all those brick and mortar practices and consolidated them into 100% virtual online.
Hmm.
And it was a beautiful thing because just out of probably dumb luck, this was about a year and a half before COVID hit, and
Yeah.
nobody wanted to go to an office anyway. So we were ahead of the curve and we were there. But we didn't realize how much better the practice would get by doing that because when they would come in the office and get on the scale, we'd see one metric or two metrics that told us how their progress was going.
Sure.
Our patients now all have a biometric scale at home. Depending upon the patient, some of them may use a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, an Apple Watch, a whole bunch of different devices, an Oura Ring, a Whoop Band, and we collect data from all those different devices every single day. So when I look at a patient record during the day, I see not only what they're doing that day, but I see what they've done since day one and how those trends are going. So we can pitch in at any moment in time and course correct or give them things that they don't know that they need and keep our hands on the data. And it all remains data driven with the understanding that it's still a very comprehensive practice. And there's an emotional side and there's a stress driven side. And there's a lot of things that feed into weight loss that, the normal person out on the street doesn't really think about. They just think about diet and exercise. And that's a very small part of the picture.
I love that you say that because I think that also must come and be so comforting for people that come to see you that, they've been told and, it's been pushed in the media, every magazine about what next diet or what type of exercise, and you forget or you don't know about all these other components that can be triggering some other effect in your body. And without addressing that, you're not totally going to resolve what you want to resolve. And I love that you're so data driven and that it's, you're taking what's happening to a person over a course of time, seeing trends. But I love what you said about we're here to correct course. If we are monitoring and we are seeing things that are not going in the way we might want it to go, then we're going to see that person. And I think I love how proactive that is. That's the right word. I love how proactive that is.
It is, and it's nice to be able to have the data at your fingertips so you can pivot really quickly. Um, there are patients that we do lab work on if they need it. There are other tools that we have, but I don't. It's rare to see any other type of practice that has such a tight handle on patient data and metrics that really feed in to the outcomes at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I love how you said that, we can pivot quickly. I think sometimes often enough that maybe what I'm sure some people have come to you and said, I was working with someone and we almost found out a result just too late. Like we started, and it's not till I see that person next or and I love that you can take and see your data points and say, we're going to tweak some things and then we're going to see how this goes. And I love that you have the ability to do that, which, kind of leads me to another question is I'd love to hear a little bit more about your approach. What about you guys are obviously from doing everything, telemed, which is so awesome that you started that in 2019 and we're way ahead of the curve. But I'd love to hear about, your program, your model, and maybe other modalities that you're using in the office and things that you found to be most effective for your patients and clients.
Yeah, we've been focusing up to this point on data, and that's still like at the top of the pyramid for us.
Yeah.
However, all the things that support that are just as important. So, number one, you have to be accessible to patients. You have to be at their beck and call when they need it. An hour or a day too late is worthless. So, the platform that we use also allows instant communication. So, if a patient says, um, these three things are on my menu. I'm at the restaurant. What can I have? We can answer them in real time and get right back to them within moments. If they're saying, my sleep quality is not what it should be, I'll get on the phone with them or I'll get on a video conference with them and I'll go through things that might be affecting sleep quality or ability to exercise or a whole bunch of different parameters that, again, fit into outcomes. And that's where the course correction comes in. It's not over a long stretch of time, it's immediate. So, my patients, I hope, have come to see that myself and
Mhm.
my staff, who I've trained likewise, are there for them. And this emotional as well as data-driven journey can be handled on a moment-by-moment basis. And that's really kind of fits in to give patients the kind of results that they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think people are often likely to stick with something when they feel like they have a true partnership, when they feel like they have someone not only that they can trust, not only within them in the process, but is really there along the way. I love that you can just, you know, they can reach out to you, whether they're, like you said, if they're dining and they're not sure what's okay for them on the menu. And I think a lot of us come up with that. Every day there's everyday little obstacles that, is this the best choice? Is this the right choice? What do I do? I'm not as informed. And I love that you've given people that ability and confidence to share those things with you, no matter how small they might seem. That's actually a big thing for someone to reach out in that way.
Yeah, you never know what's integral in the process. Um,
Absolutely.
it- yeah, it's really a great thing to be that close to my patients. And we have a really good patient population because of that reason. They're all invested in the process. They're all motivated. And I always say if one of our patients could have done this alone, it wouldn't need us. So they came to us, that being part of what they're looking for.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And I think to this point, because you are so data driven and you clearly care about your community of people, I'm sure it's often hard to beat some of the things that are out there that get fed to patients and clients. We luckily, and we are living in a world where things are automated, sometimes to our detriment. But you know, what would you say are some of the most common misconceptions that you see, day in, day out? I think there's a lot when it comes to diet, to exercise, to losing weights, the GLP-1s. I mean, there's so much out there. And I'd love for you, if you could, take some time with us to just debunk um, the misinformation, the things that are getting pushed. We see the ads all the time. You're watching Netflix and then boom, you get hit. And some of them you're curious about, and some of them you're like, I'm not so sure about that. So I love, Eric, your time on all of these things.
Yeah, it's a great and a broad question, and the answer is really going to be valuable. As you said, we live in a world of dis and misinformation right now.
Yeah,
Especially with AI in the mix, you never know what to believe anymore. You can see videos on TikTok or Facebook that you'd swear they were real, but they're
yeah.
not. And most of the time, if they're pushing something, they're pushing a supplement or a system or something else that's looking to make somebody a quick buck. And the public has a hard time knowing what to believe anymore. So we'll use GLP-1s as a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
You look at a GLP-1 commercial, And you'll never hear much about what goes along with the shot.
Yeah.
And we do use GLP-1s in our practice, but we never just write a prescription and let somebody take their GLP-1 because it's a disservice to that patient. And they really have to know, and they don't get this on the street, that if you're going to use those medications, which are really truly effective, but they're not a panacea because you still have to do all the right things to support that. So there's a lot of patients out there that take their shot every week. They don't exercise. They feel like they can sit on the couch and eat bonbons or get away with whatever they want to. And the system just doesn't work that way. If you follow that logic, patients will unfortunately see that a third of their weight that they lose is going to be lean mass muscle tissue, which
Yeah.
doesn't do them any good. And when they get off the medication, they're going to shoot 75% of them are going to shoot right back up to where they were or higher.
Mm.
So we are really adamant about if we take somebody along that path, we're going to be there to coach them through the proper exercise, proper dietary changes, look at their hormones, make sure that everything is syncing so they can get the best outcome. And by the best outcome, I mean not only the scale goes down, but your body composition changes. Your muscle mass goes up, your fat mass goes down, your visceral fat goes down. All that stuff has to change in tandem to get those health benefits that we're looking for. Um, and again, there's a lot of companies, entities out there that are looking to sell supplements that give you a quick, you know, result. They don't exist. There's a couple of supplements out there that we use regularly because they've been proven in double-blind, placebo-controlled studies to work in a clinical environment. You know, creatine for muscle mass, things like that, but they're few and far between. So sometimes it's really hard for people to avoid the hype and not know what to believe, but come to the source, just choose your sources of information carefully.
Yeah, and it's Eric, it's everywhere. Even when you go on Amazon, and even if you're looking to just get a regular supplement, you'll see the 5-star ratings and all of this, and some of them are paid, reviews and all of that. And so it's so hard to distinguish. Oh, but a lot of people say it's great.
Mhm.
It's not always true, and I love having these conversations and also talking about it. I love how you just brought up, GLP-1s and how other companies are maybe prescribing them and not at all monitoring people while they're on them. And so they might be getting none of the benefit, some of the benefit, and not reaching its full potential, or it could be completely destroying their bodies because of misuse and people that maybe shouldn't have been on them for the first place because they did no other testing. Um,
Mhm.
and so it's scary in a way, and I always believe that these things should be monitored like you are monitoring them and giving someone their full potential and doing it safely and and giving them benefit along the way. It's yeah, it's I've seen companies where they've just had people you can apply online and you can type
Right.
in whatever weight that you want and they'll
Yep.
prescribe you whatever it is, and that's not necessarily a good thing to do.
No, I think that's a scary path that things are taking. There are certain things that can be handled online.
Hmm.
But they're few and far between. When you get into the healthcare arena, I'm not saying that everybody has to have a hands-on physical exam, but you've got to have more data on a patient than these entities are taking down. Number one, to provide the right care for them, but number two, as you said, to avoid a potentially disastrous outcome. And that's coming, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. And I think, it's important as, this is something that you're so passionate about and doing it the right way. I mean, again, misinformation is everywhere. So I just so appreciate, you debunking, weight loss and, especially GLP-1s as over the years have become, the new thing or, obviously it's gotten out that a lot of celebrities are using them, but I think there's a real component and backup and data to in which you are doing it, which I think is fantastic and getting people to them best to the best selves.
Yeah,
Which
and you've also seen, I'm sure, not just from a health perspective, but when patients do it the wrong way like that, you can pick them out in a minute. You'll see their faces
really
drawn and their skin is sagging, and that's because they've done um, that non-comprehensive type of just a shot or a pill.
That's interesting. Yeah, now that you mention that, that is true. Yeah, you definitely it definitely brings you pause when you come across someone like that. And so that's interesting that you point that out. And there's better ways of handling that. So I love this is a good thing to promote. So I'm glad that we're talking about it. But that all to be said, you've given us so much today, Eric, to chew on. And I would love, as the professional that you are and many years experience, I think everyone could appreciate some pro tips from you. And I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe some common homework or advice that you might give to, a patient or client of yours. But on the other side of things, I think practitioners, as other private practice owners are watching this here today and considering all that what you've been saying as well. I think everyone has an opportunity to learn. As you've gone to brick and mortar to virtual, as you have, streamlined what you wanted your practice to be, is there something that you do every day or something that you find really important to preach to other owners, that has made you successful or made you feel really confident, in your practice?
Yeah, if I'm talking to other providers right now, there's a couple of kind of tenets that really direct the way that you're going to go for better or for worse.
Hmm.
I don't think there's any question that almost every practice is going to use telehealth in some capacity for what they're doing. It could be all or none, it could be a hybrid model. But the first thing is before you ever go that way, do your due diligence and
Yeah.
research and investigate and find out what platforms and what services might be the best for you. And when you get there, you don't want to kind of cherry pick from here and there. You're looking for one consolidated offering that can encompass most everything that you need to do on a daily basis. And we did that back in 2018, and we were very careful about it. And
Mhm.
yeah, we got lucky, but I think a lot of that luck was self-inflicted because we looked so hard before we jumped. And I'll put in a little plug here. We landed on a company called BodySite. It's
Mhm.
bodysite.com, and they were somewhat in their infancy back then too, and we kind of grew together and fed off each other. But
Mhm.
they put everything that we need in a single package that's affordable, easy to use for the patient, which is important too, because not everybody's a tech guru. So you have to have patients be able to click and come on. They don't want to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to get there.
Yeah.
Um, you want to see if that platform can handle labs, handle e-prescribing, handle video conferencing, messaging back and forth like we use. If you're missing any one of those pieces, you're going to get shortchanged. So the second part of that is you want to look at this from a kind of a patient's perspective because that's the most important view of all. And the patient has to find this very user-friendly. Like we said before, they need to know that you're there for them when you need them and not a couple days later, if and they call, they don't want to leave a message, they want to speak to a human being. But again, there's some of everything in our practice. AI has been a huge tool for us, both from an administrative and from a clinical side. So if you're going to jump into the tech world, AI can do, phone answering and phone routing and answer basic questions for patients. And then you have to deal with all the stuff that might be left over and didn't get answered. So that's a much smaller volume to take up the hours in your day and your staff as well. And I personally have used AI in a clinical aspect to help me fine tune dietary programs, recipes, meal plans, exercise structure. This has taken hours out of my workday and taken it off my plate. So if you can find the right tools and put them all together in the right mix, it's going to be a lot easier for you to sail through a day of practice.
I love that. I think I'm glad that you brought that up because I think sometimes the word AI spooks some people because they're worried about the lack of maybe critical thinking or it's going to take over. But I think you're right. You use it in the most responsible way and pair it up with some other tools, and it can be a guide. It can be an idea generator. It can be so many things that help you progress forward at a quicker pace. And so that way you can do more, see more people, have your patients get help quicker, and then increases overall satisfaction. And so I think when you put it in that way, it's hard to argue that
But
it's helpful.
the key word in your conversation was tool. And it's a tool. It's not a panacea. It's not a be all do all, but it's a really valuable tool not to negate the value of critical thinking and human touch, but to give you more input to make proper decisions.
Couldn't agree more. I love that. And for on the patient side of things, what would you say if someone could take something small out of today's conversation, and actually practitioners could take a part of this too. But is there something that we can all do to move our health in a more positive trajectory? And is there something that you would say, go do this now, or go do this today, or try to incorporate this in a small way into your daily life?
Sure, there are those bite-sized pieces, but people have been inundated with so much of lose 30 pounds this month, or all these unrealistic things that they may
Yeah.
come to believe. They have to realize that all these little pieces that we advise them to do work together to get the results that we're looking for. So if I had one thing to say to patients, it's even though our patients are very pleased with the progress they make and the rate with which they make it, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Okay. And
Yep.
especially if you've got a lot of weight to lose, don't rush it. Don't expect everything in a day or a week or a month.
Mhm.
Consistency is the key. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent with the right things that you do. Follow the right advice, go to the right sources, and sit back and have a little bit of patience. When you do these things the right way over a long period of time, your results are going to last.
I love that. Many of times, and I do love the advice that people, there's great things to consider, but I love that you kind of spin it on its head and said, I'm not going to be prescriptive about this. The only thing I want you to do is just be consistent, and this is not 2-day Amazon shipping on your weight loss. And so I think we're stuck in that. We are. We're lucky. We're fortunate that, again, like I said in the beginning, so much is automated for us, and so that we think everything else is. And so your health is, I like that what you said is not the sprint, but the marathon, and it's a journey. And so I think a part of taking good health is it's not about what you do one time, it's about what you do many of times and sticking with that.
Yeah, and right along with that, patients don't go thinking that you're going to have a patient, you're going to have a successful outcome, and you
Mhm.
wave goodbye and you never see him again. Weight loss and metabolic medicine is an ongoing process. It's a little bit different than that. So fully admit there are times when you'll get a patient to goal, they'll stay there for a while, maybe they lose touch on their own accord, and 6 months or a year later they come back and lo and behold, they've gained 30 pounds back.
Mhm.
Um, first of all, you can't beat them up for that. They're human beings. They have all these frailties that you don't even know about that are going to affect what happens in their day and in their health. So understand that and get back in and continue to support them so they can regain what they lost, quote unquote lost or gained.
Mhm.
And each time you do that, if it's kind of a serial thing, you'll make those habits a little bit stronger. So at the end of the day, you're getting a patient who's much more ready for the world.
And I think that's such a wonderful thing to say because I think when it comes to weight gain or weight loss, there is sometimes I think a feeling of shame that people hold on to. And I love that this is so welcome, that it's okay that yes, you've made your goal and then, yes, you've maybe had detracted from that and we're back, but that's okay. Like we're here with you and we're gonna get you to where you want to be. And I think I think there is a human component and I think that's often lost in medicine sometimes. So it's great that people can have a support like yourself, Eric. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's overlooked, and thank you. There's shame from the inside and there's blame from the outside, and people respond to that no matter how hard they try not to. We try to take that at the beginning and put it aside. There's no shame. This happens to everybody at some point in their lives. You have periods of weaknesses and strength. We just need to make sure that the strong periods will over time outweigh the weak ones. And you have the framework and the template and the habits built in now to make that a lot easier for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, today has been so wonderful. And right before we leave off for this afternoon, I would love if you could share with everyone who's listening, where they can touch base, where they can find you, if you have, socials or website, or any upcoming programs or things that you have going on. We'd love to know and love to share with everyone.
Yeah, sure. You opened up a Pandora's box here.
Oh, good. I love doing that. That's my favorite. Eric, what do you have for us? What do you have for
So
us?
first of all, for your initial question, if they want to reach us, if they're interested, providers or patients, CompassTotalWellness.com is the place to do it. We do have social media, Compass Total Wellness on Facebook. And then we also have a patient private group that only patients are allowed into. And that's in the thousands right now. So when you're a patient, you'll get there. The other thing is, and this is fairly recent, and you and I have talked about this, we are in the process of launching a brand new venture, which will probably launch later this summer. It's called New England Total Body Wellness. And it is a collaboration of myself with a number of other physicians in the fields of preventive cardiology, functional medicine, dermatology, exercise physiology. And this little dream of mine is going to bear fruit to be a totally comprehensive concierge type medicine practice that's really going to handle every single aspect of metabolic and cardiometabolic health. So we're looking forward to that, and I'll keep you posted on the launch
Oh,
cycle.
we are so excited for you. It sounds wonderful. We are on our toes, patiently awaiting its debut, and we look forward to it. And we hope to have you on again soon, Eric, and maybe with everyone else. It sounds fabulous. We wish you the best, and thank you so much for being here today.
Totally my pleasure. You send the invite, and we'll be back.
You got it.
Take care, Rachel.